I did want to talk about the work of the ACLJ. It's the most important work of what we do here. Of course, the fight for life continues. A couple of years ago, you had the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Big victory for a lot of us. And for a lot of you, as we've done the analytical data, that was kind of the end of the story for you. You decided that the fight for life wasn't something that you saw as an urgent threat because you saw it being overturned and returned to the states. And of course, we know certain states have had much stricter laws put in place, state where, like we are in Tennessee. Then you have a state, obviously the more left-leaning states that have gone maybe to the extreme, which will fly you in and will pay for everything, and they've become abortion havens. So we continue the fight. The fight keeps happening. But this is a really interesting one, and we have to kind of take a step and go, okay, well, what's their plan? What's the meaning? But I believe we can start with it's a major victory, at least for now. And that is, of course, you remember during the big, beautiful bill, when that was all being passed, one of the big sticking items was the defunding of Planned Parenthood, at least for a time being. And, of course, that's been something that has been a big ticket item, if you will, in the world of politics. It feels like that's always something that is dangled in front of the voter, saying the American people will no longer have to pay for Planned Parenthood with their taxpayer dollars. A lot of times it doesn't happen. And it's always a sticking point. And look, President Trump, as much as he has done a lot for the pro-life movement, this has been one of those issues that he's even maybe used as a bit of a bargaining chip when debating what should go through and what shouldn't go through and what's better for American people. But in a really another unprecedented moment, Planned Parenthood decided that their lawsuit, which the ACLJ was involved in, against the big, beautiful bill's defunding of Planned Parenthood is no longer worth their time, and they have surrendered and withdrawn their lawsuit. Again, at least for the time being, ACLJ supporters take this as a major victory, at least for now.
That's right. And as you remember, there were several challenges to this funding provision, one from non-Planned Parenthood abortion clinic. Then we had also, there's a challenge led by California, surprise, surprise, although they are fighting it in Massachusetts, where this case stemmed from. So there are a couple other challenges out there. A lot of the early stage challenges where we've been successful on appeals had to do with injunctions against this defunding portion of the bill. So as of right now, they are defunded. But this was a shocking moment. This was very surprising because Planned Parenthood filed a voluntary dismissal notice in federal court in Massachusetts. And you have to sit here, as Logan said, and think, okay, what is their end game? One, big victory. They are no longer fighting. They no longer, at least what you can kind of take from it, think this is a battle worth fighting in federal court. And so that is a big victory. This hard work that ACLJ supporters have rallied around our organization and many others to push for this for a very long time, take the win.
They do not give up easily.
Right. But here are the caveats, and here's kind of where my analysis goes when I start thinking why. Why would they do this? One, remember, one of the things that happened was the time frame of the defunding only became a year from being a permanent defunding. Maybe Planned Parenthood is thinking, instead of wasting money on a lawsuit, which could go all the way to the Supreme Court and end up giving us precedent we don't like, if the Supreme Court says, of course you can defund, maybe they think we need to spend more money on midterm elections, because we know that that's very important to them. And we know that Planned Parenthood, through their action arm, spends a lot of money on elections.
And look, don't think that what's going on in Minnesota isn't also connected to the midterm elections.
Right.
The writing is a bit on the wall. I don't want to be doomsdayer for you conservatives who are listening. Obviously, that's probably the mass majority of the people that watch. But the odds are not good right now.
That's right. And I think that if Planned Parenthood is looking and saying, okay, do we take the loss of funding for a year and maybe not have this continue on in court through the appeals process, maybe even to the Supreme Court? What if we just refocus where that money's going and we fight to make sure that we get as liberal of people elected as possible, so that next time the funding is up, when that year expires, we can get more funding. We can push back and get retroactive funding and push Congress to get to a point to give us what we want, which they have done for decades. They have used the American taxpayer as a piggy bank for so long. Billions and billions of taxpayer dollars have gone to Planned Parenthood over the decades. And that's where I think that they probably lean. So take this as a win, but not as a time to quit fighting.
Yeah,
this fight has to continue.
It's a temporary win on the continual journey. And look, you see the ads. If you watch the news, especially if you watch, not Fox, you'll see ads for Planned Parenthood running all the time. They are certainly funded a lot by donors and supporters. And maybe they, like as Will said, they can take the temporary loss knowing what they're going to be heading into. There's also a bit of an update, Will. We only got a couple minutes here on that California school.
That's right. We are filing this morning a brief actually to the Supreme Court on a school where California is forcing Christian schools to make Christian education optional. So effectively taking away the autonomy of the school, private schools being able to make Christian education at these Christian schools optional. We are fighting back against that.
California is getting wild here, folks. I mean, it feels like we are in a lawsuit with Gavin Newsom more than we are not. I mean, this is what I feel like the third or fourth one that we've done just in the last 12 months. But these, when they start getting involved, not only in your kids' public schooling, fine, that's part of what you get with public schools. You understand the issues. But when they start regulating really what goes on with the faith practices in your private schools, the ACLJ's got to get involved. I think this should be an easy win, but we're in California, so unlikely it will be an easy win. If you rational people who watch this show were the people making that decision, I would go, of course. A private school, a private religious education can say whatever they want about faith, and yes, it's not necessarily optional if you decide to go to Christian education.
Well, and that's why this is a brief to the Supreme Court, because the Ninth Circuit upheld the state's position that they can force private schools to say, you must let people come to your school and then opt out of the teaching and the message of that's core to the education philosophy there.
Why would you even be sending your kids there?
Good schools.
Good schools, but they're faith-based schools. There are plenty of private schools.
Not if Gavin Newsom has anything to do with it,
But there's plenty of private schools that are not prep schools, those kind of things. You can find them. Leave the Christian schools alone. We're going to get involved here at the ACLJ. We're taking the Supreme Court of the United States. We can't do that without you. So I want to encourage you right now, when you're thinking about supporting, where to put your funds, the ACLJ is the perfect place to do it. Go to aclj.org right now.